Good evening and welcome to Tuần-san News of the Week. My name is Emma Doe. In what's making headlines this week, Vietnamese pharmaceutical executives sent to jail over a fake cancer drug. US immigration officials reversed their decision after denying a Vietnamese woman a visa to visit her dying daughter. And glimpses of a new documentary on the Vietnam War, 10 years in the making. To this week's top story, Vietnamese President Trần Đại Quang has appeared in public for the first time in more than a month. Pictures of Quang at his office welcoming Cuban ambassador Herminio Lopez Diaz were shown on the government's website on Monday. The released images ends online speculation about his health and position due to his absence from the political scene. Quang was last seen in the public eye at the end of July when he met with the Secretary of Russia's Security Council. The Communist Party leadership is notoriously opaque, and changes this year have included the unprecedented sacking of a political bureaucrat and a vice minister in a corruption crackdown. China's military has promoted an army general who fought Vietnam in a brief border war in 1979. According to China's Defense Ministry, the promotion is part of a broad reshuffle expected as part of this autumn's Communist Party Congress. In a brief statement, the ministry named the Army Commander Lee So-chung as the new chief of the Joint Staff Department of the People's Liberation Army, replacing Phang Feng Hui. It's not clear if the 63-year-old will also remain as the Army Commander. Lee was last year subject to a glowing profile in the official Beijing Daily that described his time fighting the Vietnamese. The state-run Global Times earlier this week said that Lee had been wounded in the war but performed so bravely he was given the title of War Hero. Construction for Vietnam's biggest gas reserve could begin as early as November, according to Vietnamese state TV. The Blue Whale gas project is run by the US company ExxonMobil in cooperation with the state-run Petro-Vietnam and will encompass 150 billion cubic metres of reserves. The state TV report stated that ExxonMobil aimed to produce the first gas for Vietnamese power plants in 2023. The gas plant reflects Vietnam's efforts to switch from coal-fired power plants to cleaner energy. A Vietnamese drug which could drastically reduce cancer treatment costs is expected to hit the market in 2018. According to the Vietnamese Ministry of Science and Technology, the drug made in Vietnam is called pegfilgrastim and will help lower cancer treatment costs by 60%. The product, used in chemotherapy and radiation therapy, is in the testing phase on humans after nearly 3 years of research. Pegfilgrastim boosts white blood cells and supports the immune system. Statistics from the Health Ministry show that over 75,000 deaths are caused by cancer annually in Vietnam, while there are around 150,000 newly detected cancer cases each year. The Vietnamese government has ordered an investigation into its own Ministry of Health for its role in a fake cancer drug scandal. Last week, 6 former executives and staff members of the private pharmaceutical company VN Pharma received sentences ranging from 2 to 12 years imprisonment for drug smuggling and forging paperwork. The court found that since 2013, VN Pharma had been importing a drug called H-Capita and falsely advertising it as a cancer drug made in Canada. Investigations began in 2014 after the company won a contract with the Ho Chi Minh City's health department to supply the drugs at a suspiciously low price. It was later revealed that the drug's stated Canadian manufacturer did not exist and that documents purportedly verifying the drug's quality were also fake. The court also ordered investigations to identify doctors and hospitals who accepted $330,000 worth of bribes from VN Pharma on the condition of prescribing the company's specific brands of drugs. In a statement made on Wednesday, Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam said the case had caused the public to lose trust in the healthcare sector. The government's inspections team has been asked to look into how the Health Ministry has registered new drugs and licensed importers. Vietnam's aviation authorities have decided to raise service fees for all carriers that use the country's airports from October this year. The Ministry of Transport said the move would compensate for maintenance expenses, improve service quality, and pay back some of the state investments in aviation infrastructure. Accordingly, the cost incurred each time a plane touches down or takes off will rise by 5% from the current level, while there are plans to raise it by a further 5% from June next year. There will also be premiums of 15% added for peak hours and reductions of 15% for off-peak usage. Vietnam has some 52 air routes connecting 22 civilian airports around the country. Internationally, 63 foreign airlines operate 105 international routes through 6 international gateways. To news in the United States. Immigration officials have reversed a decision after denying a Vietnamese woman a temporary visa to visit her dying daughter in the state of San Jose. Nguyen Thi Hua's 33-year-old daughter Jin Phan was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer last month. Hua's request for a visa was reportedly first denied by the US Embassy and the consulate in Vietnam because immigration officials feared she would stay in the US for good. It's unclear when Hua will land in San Jose, but the family expects her to make the trip as soon as possible in order to see her daughter one last time. Phan, who immigrated to the US from Vietnam in 2003, last saw her mother in 2012. Aside from her husband and son, she has one other cousin who lives in the state of Dallas. The family's plight gained media attention after a story was published by the Mercury News newspaper on Tuesday. A new 10-part documentary series about the Vietnam War will air on the US TV network PBS from mid-September. Filmmakers Ken Burns and Lynn Novick spent 10 years making the documentary, interviewing a variety of subjects including US veterans, deserters, and former North Vietnamese and Viet Cong fighters.
I think the country's ready to have the conversation we've never had about the war, which we really need to have.
Wars are so extraordinarily revealing, obviously, of the worst of humanity, but as it turns out, also the best of humanity.
We wanted to get to know the people, we wanted to get to know the place, we wanted to spend time there. Trying to figure out how to do what we do in Vietnam was really a challenge.
The documentary intends to make viewers draw their own conclusions about the controversial war that lasted a total of 19 years, from November 1st, 1955 to April 30, 1975. In a press conference, Novick said she would be honoured if anyone in the current US administration watched the documentary and thought about what it really meant to send a country to war. Back to news in Australia. Trade ministers from around the world have gathered in Sydney this week to negotiate the Trans-Pacific Partnership. 11 countries, including Vietnam, Japan, Australia and Singapore, are still committed to the trade deal. Vietnam was slated to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of the TPP, expecting to enjoy greater access to the US market. But that was all thrown into limbo when President Trump withdrew the US from the deal in January. There are fears more countries may follow suit and pull out of the deal. During the 3-day meetings, Vietnam expressed its desire to get rid of intellectual property provisions around pharmaceuticals made in the original TPP deal. Critics said the 8-year wait for access to pharmaceutical data in the original deal would impede the development of cheap generics. No agreement is yet expected at the end of the 3-day meeting, but there is hope that the matters will be sealed in the APEC leaders meeting in November. Australia and Vietnam have ramped up collaborative efforts against illegal fishing in the Asia-Pacific region. Earlier this week, both countries' ministers for agriculture and rural development signed a memorandum of understanding at the APEC meeting in the Vietnamese city of Cần Thơ. Australia has seen a spike in Vietnamese fishing boats caught poaching in Australian waters this year. Past court documents have cited conflict in the South China Sea as one of the possible reasons Vietnamese fishers are heading further south. That's all from Tuần-san News of the Week. For more stories, you can follow Tuần-san at tvtsonline.com.au and Facebook at Tuần-san. I'm Emma Doe, thank you so much for watching and I look forward to your company at the same time next week.